And here we go. Hi, everyone. This is Kathy from the Moonbeam team. I'm here with Derek, who is a PureStake CEO. And today we want to chat with all our amazing community about everything that has happened in 1 year since Moonriver was fully launched. As many of us were with Moonbeam on that stage, Moonriver was a crazy experience, and it still being like that. With Kusama Expect Chaos, Moonriver has been this network where a lot of the latest tech upgrades have been seen there yet, like a lot of XCM connections. Today, Derek is with us, and he's gonna make a recap of everything that has happened in Moonriver and what to look forward on the next month and years. Thanks, Derek, for being today with us.
Yeah, of course, of course. Well, and I would correct that. There's no way that I can cover all of the things that happened. There's a lot of things that have happened, but maybe I'll just highlight some. Just take a moment since it's been a year to highlight some things that are important. And yeah, why don't I think there's some slides here, Kathy, that you helped put together. So why don't I pull those up? Let's see.
And in the meantime, thank you so much for everyone who is connected with us right now. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat, or there's also an option on the left called Ask a Question. Feel free to use that as well, and we'll have some minutes at the end to cover some questions from the community. Okay, Derek, the stage is yours.
Okay, and can you see the slide all right here?
Yep.
I think I should be sharing. Great. Well, I mean, I guess the first comment is 1 year. When Kathy, when you told me that it had been a year, I think it was last week. That didn't really make sense to me. I mean, it seems well, on the one hand, it seems like it's been much longer than a year, and on the other hand, it's time has gone really fast. So it's a weird feeling where it's both I both feel like it's too short and too long for it to have been a year. And a year ago was a different time, right? I mean, we were, in the middle of the last bull, and there was Polkadot hadn't even launched yet, right? It was just Kusama, and I mean, there was it was just a quite different time then. But there's really been just a lot of things have happened in the last year. There was a lot of things that happened leading up to the launch of Moonriver 1 year ago. And I think, when I think back on a lot of these things, I mean, there's a few things that stand out to me. One is that it's Kathy, you used the word first, right? There's a lot of firsts that happened on Moonriver, and of course, that was part of the whole original parody idea around Kusama in the first place. Was this idea of a canary net, where you have a place where things can happen first, and Moonriver is definitely no exception to that. Where sorry, my notes here, where a lot of things happen first, on Moonriver. And so if I just think about the current state of things, Moonriver really is a hub of activity on Kusama. I think there's no question about that. There's certain key stats that we track every month, and we're kind of keeping track. We've been keeping track of this since the launch of the network. And there's continual growth in these stats. So things like the number of transactions, the number of these days XCM integrations that are being stood up, the amount of project deployments, the amount of participation in staking, the collator community, I'd say, is another real highlight, where the kind of the activeness, the friendliness and the camaraderie of the collators on Moonriver is really been amazing. And so I think that I've kind of been proud that Moonriver has become this, let's call it this central point, or kind of a hub of activity on the entire broader Kusama environment. And I think that it'll continue to be that, right? So moving forward, there's still a lot of active work that we're putting in to Moonriver. All of the code that is shipped, runtime updates, other things land on Moonriver first. And I think we'll continue to see Moonriver being the place where new and experimental things are tried. And I wanted to pause for a minute and talk about XCM. I would say this is a real highlight like of what's been accomplished like on Moonriver. Right now, Moonriver has the largest number of active XEM channels or connections in all of Datsama, right? Because XEM was enabled much earlier like on Moonriver than it was on on Kusama than it was on Polkadot. So there's been more time to establish these connections, and there's quite a number of connections at this point. If you go, for example, to the DApp that allows you to do XE transfers, you can see a list of like all of the different chains, other parachains within Kusama that one can transfer from. And I think that we're in a moment now where the first kind of tangible XCM use case was around token transfers and the development of this XC20 standard that helps take substrate assets from other parachains, move them to Moonriver, and then make them accessible from the Moonriver EVM as if they're ERC20s. And this really has been like a widely adopted feature. A lot of the protocols deployed like in the Moonriver EVM take advantage of this and are able to support and provide different kinds of utility and different interesting use cases for these these substrate based assets that are moving via XCM. And I think just more broadly, thoughts on XCM. While there is a lot of work happening in cross-chain messaging kind of protocols in general, and we're big believers in all of those. The XCM is special, right? So XCM is something that is unique to Moonriver and Moonbeam and the Datsama ecosystem. It's really part of the the very ingenious architecture of the system itself. It's being able to send messages between chains secured by at the base layer is something that you don't have with a lot of other protocols. And we're in a time now where people are both waking up to all of the possibilities that these cross-chain interactions bring, but at the same time there's like these security kind of concerns that come up when you're doing cross-chain things. So I think that this XCM is definitely something where I think that increasingly it's going to be appreciated how elegant and secure it is, and I think that it will drive adoption into Datsama over time. Really, I think it was the motivation for us to even initially come to Polkadot in the first place, or Datsama in the first place, is this kind of understanding the power of XCM and how being able to provide this messaging system along with substrate that offered this very high degree of security. This was something that it was clear to me would be a key element of being able to do all sorts of interesting things or power all sorts of interesting things. And so I expect that to continue, and for Moonriver to play a very important role, particularly around these XCM scenarios as they continue to develop. And right now, just to give some examples, I mentioned XC20 is the first feature that's gotten a lot of traction, but there are others. So in particular, there's kind of this bi-directional XSmart contract calls from XCM that are just in the process of coming to life on Moonriver. So the idea is that from a smart contract on Moonriver, you can make outbound XCM calls. That actually already exists today. That's features that are used, for example, by teams that are providing like liquid staking protocols. And then the other direction is so that another parachain on Kusama can send an XCM message to Moonriver, which will ultimately get mapped to a smart contract call like on Moonriver. And so it's kind of the reverse scenario where you're kind of receiving a message then and receiving kind of a call to one of your smart contracts on Moonriver. And with those two primitives, there's already a number of parachain teams that have interesting plans for how to use that, right? A lot of it might take the form of, hey, I have this parachain, but I might also have some smart contracts on Moonriver, and they're going to be part of the same system. They're going to kind of coordinate with each other. And then by being on Moonriver, like with a smart contract, that then opens the doors to composing with like all of the other protocols that are running within the Moonriver EVM. DeFi and all sorts of other kinds of protocols. And so I think that's like really cool and like really exciting. And we're just scratching the surface on it right now. And there's going to be a lot more of these kinds of scenarios coming. So on this point around the latest upgrades in tech, I would, and there's some examples given here. The Orbiters program was a program that was launched to help expand the amount of collators that could engage on the network, and that's been a success. As well as XCM scenarios and runtime upgrades. Just to pause on the runtime upgrades for a minute, this is like one of the great powers of Substrate in general, and of both Kusama and Polkadot. The key capability is this ability to do like runtime upgrades using the governance system like itself, right? So to basically do forkless upgrades where you use the existing blockchain to upgrade the blockchain to the next version of the blockchain. And this is something I think that is quite underappreciated, in general about Substrate. It's a very powerful feature. What it means is that you can rapidly evolve your blockchain, Moonriver, to adapt to have new features, performance improvements, bug fixes. It's very easy to, relatively speaking, to upgrade the chain. And that's in contrast to when you like other chains that don't have these features. It's a big pain to like upgrade, right? There's a hard fork. There's a lot of like coordinated activities that have to happen around like this fork to get everyone to move from the old thing to the new thing. And so it's a big it's a big undertaking. Whereas in Substrate, it's kind of built in. And just subject to the governance system that's on the chain. And so to illustrate the point, right now, runtime 1800 is rolling out on Moonriver. And so we've numbered these starting with 100, right? So we started with 100, 200, 300, and so on. And then sometimes there's even patch releases on top of that. So if you have, runtime 500, then there's a patch that would be runtime 501, and there could be 502 and 503. And so right now we're rolling out 1800. So think about that. So that's, that's like, there's been like 18 like major releases, like in one way, shape or form, that have upgraded the chain. And I can tell you, if you compare that against, other systems out there, I'm doubtful that they've had 18 like upgrades in the last, in the last year. And so that's going to be a competitive advantage and continue to mean that Moonriver will evolve to have like the most relevant and like up to date features, and can evolve to changing market conditions, right? Because the market itself is changing and the needs of developers are changing. And so that's something that I feel quite good about when it comes to Moonriver. And on the ecosystem side, I mean, this is the amazing thing. So there is this. Moonriver is a platform launched a year ago, and now there's quite a number of different protocols deployed like to Moonriver. I think it's mentioned here. There is this Downtown Moonbeam site, which is really nice, maintained by the folks over at Downtown Moonbeam. So if you go to dtmb.xyz, you can see a list of these like protocols that are deployed to Moonriver in different categories. And this has been an amazing thing from my perspective to see. You create this platform. It has these base kind of capabilities and APIs, and then you see this far surpassed my imagination of all of the different creative folks and like different ideas that were then deployed like onto Moonriver. And so that continues to be something that I continue to be amazed by, is just all of the different folks that have found something useful and kind of found like Moonriver to be a home, and how all these different like protocol teams have worked together, right? And these are things where there's a lot of different interactions between some of these different protocols. You could have different protocols that each have their own token, but then you have them working with like a DEX like Solarbeam, for example, to have those tokens there. So there's a lot of interesting interactions like between the different protocols that are deployed. And I think that this is like something that I think is been a great success. So just to see all of these different people like be able to make use of Moonriver and do something useful and put their energy into something to create something like interesting. And so I'll continue to. I want to continue to see, this kind of. This will make me happy to continue to see this kind of developer engagement, like with the platform. And I think on the community side, I think this is maybe the thing that I'm that I'm proudest of. If I look back at the last year, it's closely connected to the last idea. But the whole idea of Moonriver was one, to have it be a canary net, like so that there was this environment that could be more experimental, that features could be tried and shipped to. But the other idea behind Moonriver was to also take a bit of a different approach on the token distribution side, and to do this. Many of you on here may recall the initial crowd loan that did an initial distribution of the tokens of Moonriver, the Mover tokens. And in my mind, like, that was a great success also, even though we weren't sure at the time what would happen. I think that like Moonriver really helped to form the initial community, and there's been overlap. I think some of that community now is of course also part of the Moonbeam community. But there's something special about how this community first came into being, like with the Moonriver crowd loan and launch, and just really kind of having this like initial set of people that were bought in and had skin in the game. I think that's like one of the strongest things about about Moonriver, is that community of people that are around the platform and the network. And I've spoken with a lot of the teams building, and they tend to be, let's say, smaller teams. It could be 3-4 person teams that are building either a game or some other kind of project on the chain. But there is kind of this theme that runs throughout it, where these are generally folks. This is perhaps not the like multi-million-dollar VC backed kind of thing, but these are genuine people that really like are trying to do something like interesting, trying to put their energy into creating something like that's of value. And I found a place where they can be around like-minded people. And so that to me is maybe the most special thing about Moonriver. And I hope it continues to serve that that kind of purpose as this facilitator and connector of people to be able to provide a place where they can express themselves and build something that's interesting. And I think that's much larger than just PureStake or like any individual company or project around the network. It's this kind of act of bringing people together and allowing them to interact in like all these different ways. That's the thing that's like the most interesting and maybe special to me about this whole exercise. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that happens in the next year. And to speak a little bit about what some of those things look like, a lot of it is around this idea that I've been talking about called cross-chain connected contracts. And this idea really comes from emerges out of this capability that you can send messages to different chains, and you can connect functionality on different chains. It's like a very simple idea to talk about, but I think it has like very profound implications that we're only just now starting to see play out. One of those implications is that chains are going to specialize, right? You're going to, like, as soon as you can connect to other chains, you can specialize in being really good at one thing, and then you can get all the things you're not good at from other chains. And so that hasn't been the case before, right? In the past, everyone had to be kind of minimally okay at everything because you were isolated. But now this like this idea of cross-chain connected like contracts or being able to send messages between chains opens up the door to this specialization. And so I think we're going to start to see that play out. And the environment on Kusama is perfect for experimentation along these lines, right? Where you have substrate, you can build specialized functionality as a parachain. The costs are certainly not so prohibitive now for obtaining one of these parachain slots, but then you can use XCM to connect to other chains. And I know Moonriver is certainly going to be one of those connection points, having as it does a lot of interesting protocols, DeFi protocols and otherwise, on Moonriver. And so specialization is one thing. So I think there's kind of a path to more scalability and like more efficiency there. But the other thing is around user experience, where I do think that using these cross-chain messages, you can create user experiences that are strictly better than what is kind of the status quo today. And the one key way to do that is you can present kind of a single user interface to the user, but you can hide then all of these specialized chains like behind that, right? So they can, the user might not even realize that they're interacting with, 3, 4 other parachains like on Kusama. They're just being presented one user experience, and then messages are being used to kind of tie together all of these like specialized chains to deliver like a single experience back to the user. That I think is also a very powerful idea that is an unlock from having these connected contracts, or this ability to connect and send messages like between different blockchains. And so, I think this is something where already, as I mentioned, a number of teams are pursuing different XCM scenarios, and I see Moonriver is playing a key role in that, acting as kind of a hub of messaging activity, since there are so many kind of interesting protocols and other services that are being developed like on Moonriver. And so, if I have kind of a prediction of the future of the next year, it's going to be a lot of it is going to be in this area, further development in this area. And yeah, I think that's, I don't want to keep going on. I think those are some of the thoughts that I had on this, 1-year anniversary of Moonriver. And I guess I just want to appreciate everyone that showed up here, that's helped, has been a community member and helped, just been engaged with the network, right? And, created something and, been, engaged, in helping like new people. And, that's obviously, a big part of what makes Moonriver what it is.
Fantastic. Yeah, I agree with that. And all the moverings and all the enthusiasm that they always show to the project. There have been even like movering parties going around. So it's been a year where like I personally also like learned so much from Moonriver. I think like the whole team grew so much. So I like what you said about like Moonriver referring to this hub of messaging activity in the Kusama ecosystem. I have a question here from Tony. And he pretty much wants to know, I mean, I'm going to like rephrase a little bit his question on like how does shared security of Polkadot and Kusama like allows a seamless XCM connection? What are the roles that they both play together?
Yeah, so I think if you're trying to send a message from one blockchain to another, the question is like kind of like how does that work, right? Like how is it that like the source blockchain understands that the message has been sent, and how is it that the message received on the second chain is like known? It can say, hey, this was sent, this is like the actual contents, that wasn't interfered with. How is that like messaging interaction secured? And I think that the thing that is really special about Datsama in general, Kusama, like XCM, is that this ability to send messages has been built into the blockchain itself. So it's like in the blockchain itself is this awareness of messages, where they came from, where they're being sent to, and then you can kind of rely on the contents as being genuine, right? There's no additional security assumptions that you're needing to make. You're only making the same assumptions that you're making if you submit transactions to the network, right? It's like secured by the validators on the relay chain. And so I think that is kind of the key thing, where almost every other system that doesn't take that approach, you're taking some set of additional assumptions on top of the base blockchain. Bridges notoriously do this, right? So bridges are generally not part of the blockchain itself. You deploy some set of smart contracts that allows you to like interact between two different chains. But there's, as everyone knows, there's many examples here now of that leading to security problems. And the security problem is generally not like in the blockchain itself. It's like with the bridge like contracts, like that's like where the problem is. And so by putting this like into the blockchain itself, then you have this like much more stable ground, right? Where you don't have these additional assumptions. You don't have this smart contract that maybe was like not done, right way or not the right way. It's just in like the actual blockchain itself. And I think this is something that, there's like an awareness is rising about this, right? So it's like as there's like issues and problems with some of these smart contracts, then I think people become increasingly aware that, hey, like the security of these things is very important. And, maybe there's certain messaging like transports that are better or worse for like different use cases. So I give the example, kind of old school example of different mail, right? You might have like, you're going to try to send someone something. So there's like regular mail, there's like FedEx, and then maybe there's armored truck, right? If you're trying to send like a whole bunch of cash. And so they're all different ways of sending things, but I think people are getting more fine-tuned now to say like, well, you know what, maybe if I have a huge amount of cash, I don't put it in the regular mail. That doesn't make sense. I need to choose one of these like more secure options. But, for like a message that's just, part of a decentralized message, kind of an instant messenger that I'm just sending to Kathy, like yeah, maybe that doesn't need armor truck, that can go in the regular mail. And so I think that you're going to start to see different, messaging systems used for like different purposes, keeping this kind of thing in mind.
And all this cross-chain messaging is attracting a lot of developers because not only like because you can find new use cases, but also because you can grow your community and you can like find new users.
Yeah.
So Tony is also asking, from a developer standpoint, what is the Moonbeam Foundation, Moonbeam and Moonriver doing in regards to reaching out and bringing new developers into that community? Will there be any investments in growing our developers database?
Yeah. Yeah, so so I would say that this, given that we already have like XCM as one of these messaging transports, that's part of this overarching connected contract strategy of making Moonriver and Moonbeam the best possible places to develop these, let's call them like networked like apps, right? So cross-chain connected like smart contracts or dApps that use these messaging systems. XCM is obviously it can be a primary one, but there are other messaging systems as well. And I think that right now we're at this moment where developers are just starting to like understand and learn like what these new possibilities are, like in using these techniques. And so there's like development teams that are already developing these things, but they have not even like launched their protocols yet. So even through the end of the year, I expect expect to see like teams starting to deploy these cross-chain protocols like into the ecosystem. And I think that, I mean, I not to overuse analogies here, but I think it's, we're in a world now where computers, like I always do this analogy with computers, right? Like the history of computers, where, blockchains historically have been unnetworked. So they've been these standalone systems. You could bring your software there, like you had to kind of bring it there. And then you were sharing like those systems with other people, right? Because they're expensive and hard to maintain. And so we're kind of seeing a shift now to saying almost like the PC era, where it's like, okay, well, now you can use Substrate to make your own computer, right? You can make your own blockchain and customize it how you want. And so that, that helps with, these specialization and these other things I talked about. But, it's like also they're getting networked for the first time, just like when computers were networked for the first time. And so then, you also have this idea of, okay, well, I had just like this local game I made that I ran on like this computer, but now that it's networked, I mean, think about all the possibilities that opened up. Sorry, I'm bouncing myself. Think about all the possibilities that brought up, right? So you could have things like, multiplayer, like like online, like RPGs, and like there's all these other kinds of games you can create now. Just to use games as an example, now that you have this ability to connect between like different computers in the old world, but now blockchains like in the new world. So I think there's going to be quite a bit of exploration of like what's possible now. And we really are like just at the beginning. I mean, XCM just went, is still only some number of months like old, right? I think that's definitely what I'm most excited about. Hackathons. I mean, all of the kinds of things that you would normally do to attract developers are going to be done with this focus on these integrated like messaging systems and cross-chain connected contracts.
And something that I know that also our team is working very hard on is like when a project deploys to Moonbeam or Moonriver, like we don't want just to be like just another deployment. We want them to leverage these like XCM use cases or scenarios. Same with connected contracts. Just to add on what like Derek said, it was fantastic. Education is very important for developers. So we have a Moon Builders workshop program going every month with session for developers to learn how to use integrations in Moonbeam. And there's also the Moon Builders Academy available. I'm going to send the links on the chat. But if you're a developer, you want to learn more on how to get started in Moonbeam and start like going more in detail and like deep dive into like the Moonbeam world, I think like these couple of programs can be a good fit for you. So last question, Derek, is coming from Socrates, and it says, are there any plans for connecting smart contracts from Moonriver to smart contracts on Moonbeam and vice versa? Example, via Polkadot to Kusama connection.
Yeah, so there is like a parity effort underway to create an XCM bridge to bridge Kusama and Polkadot, which would allow for sending of XCM messages, from Moonriver to Moonbeam or in the other direction. So that is something that I don't know what the timing is of that, but that is something that is active, like on the parity side, and so we look forward to that. In the meantime, there are some other bridging technologies that have connected the two. Obviously, I would say do your own research and other things when it comes to those. But there are ways to to at least move tokens and do some things in between the networks. I think I'm looking forward to this XCM connection because again, that goes beyond just token movement scenarios to these more functional scenarios that I think are more interesting. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, there you go.
I was muted. Yeah, so fantastic. That was a great answer. Thank you so much. So that was pretty much what we have for you guys today. Thank you, Derek, for being with us. Is there any final messaging you want to give to our amazing community?
No, I would just say I appreciate all of you. I think that we're just in a time now where like I said, these networks are bigger than any one participant, and so as you may have seen, there's some new governance proposals that have been put up, initially targeting Moonbeam, but they will also be coming to Moonriver around more participation, more involvement from the community into the governance process itself, using the great on-chain governance features that exist on both Moonriver and Moonbeam. And so I appreciate all of you. I look forward to your participation in some of these new initiatives, so that you can be part of deciding the direction of the network and which way it goes.
Yes, and we also value all the feedback, comments, and thoughts from our community. So I'm going to drop here the link. If you guys want to join Discord, Telegram, the team is there. And follow all our announcements on Telegram. Follow the official channels. So yeah, be careful with all these countries around. So the link that I share has the Moonbeam official channels. We also have Moonbeam international communities in different languages. So if you want to know more about the Spanish community or Ukrainian community, etc., drop us a message and we can connect you with our amazing ambassadors as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming. And we'll see you in the next session. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.